What is up? Welcome in to DFS and Chill, Club Fantasy's weekly DFS show. We're in week 9 of the NFL. You're already going to notice a little bit of technical difficulties on the podcast. We'll get to that in a second. Week 9 is shaping up to be every bit the nightmare that week 7 was, far more off the field than on the field. But that's what we love about DFS. You can pick the players you like, avoid the players you don't like. Normally, I would be kicking it to my good friend Kyra Wiaterowski. Kyra's having a little bit of technical difficulties. We didn't want to start the show too late, and plus we start with the Thursday game, which is about as little exciting as could possibly be. So I'm going to intro our guest. I'm going to be honest, I've done very little prep to intro our guest because Kyra always does that, and Kyra's about to jump in here in a second anyway. But Britt Flinn is with us. Britt, I know you're with a bunch of different sites. I just recently read your great article with Fantasy Intervention that I was complimenting, but tell the people where they can find you. Intro yourself.
Well, thank you for having me on. This is super exciting. You guys can follow me. There's Kyra. Awesome. Hey.
I'm late to my own party, Brittany.
That's all right. It happens.
I love it.
Keep going, Britt.
But you can find me on Twitter at Britt_Flinn. You can find my weekly DFS articles and occasionally a few other mixed in here and there at fightingchancefantasy.com. Then I do a podcast every Sunday morning with Kevin Tompkins and Gary Haddow called The Calm Before the Storm. And every Tuesday night with Chase Vernon talking waivers.
Perfect. Waivers are my favorite thing in fantasy football. Definitely a way to win the season. And I know Chase has always been very good with that. Kyra, you made it. As I mentioned, week 9 is already looking like a nightmare. And then you start off with technical difficulties. So that worked out perfectly.
My Kyra, life is a nightmare, Ryan.
But the show's going to go smoothly. We're going to get you out of here for your hot date. It's going to be a great show.
You guys
know who Kyra is. Kyra's the creator of the show. I'm Ryan, the host. We're going to jump into Thursday night, but I do want to give a couple of quick announcements. Number 1, this is going to be a DFS show. That doesn't mean you can't ask redraft questions. I probably just won't get them on the air. I will answer redraft questions in the chat while these ladies crush it on the main slate. But we don't just focus on the main slate. We're going to start off with a little bit of Thursday talk, and a reminder, all those out there who haven't tuned in recently, if you're asking questions on the Twitter live feed of this, we do not see it. We are not ignoring you. We would love to have you join our YouTube page. We need the followers so we can do more giveaways. Plus, we'll actually be able to see and answer your questions. So as I mentioned, we focus on the main slate, but we start with Thursday night. Tonight, you're going to need to have some action on this game to probably keep it interesting. It's the Jets traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. We all know the Jets have a new quarterback. I have a feeling we're going to talk about him a little bit. We start with a segment that we call Who's Your Captain? Whenever you do these showdown slates, you have to pick a captain. Kyra, you haven't got to talk this entire show. Who's your captain for the Thursday night game?
Yeah, Ryan, you know I'm itching to talk. I didn't even get to say a damn word. So we'll jump right into this. My captain tonight is going to be someone pretty obvious to most. It's going to be Jonathan Taylor. He's expensive for good reason. He's going to be the focal point of the game. The Jets can't stop running backs. As a matter of fact, they're actually the worst matchup for running backs. Last 5 weeks, he's put up over 20 plus points. He's an absolute monster. The guy looks like he was built in a running back lab. Running backs absolutely smash with the Jets, mostly because people just get up on them and they're able to ride their running back through the rest of the game. They just don't need to be passing a ton. So the games usually don't get too competitive. So we're going to see here if what remains to be seen for Mike White. I don't think that me or Brittany are feeling too good about it. So I think that my captain pick there with Jonathan Taylor is going to work out just fine.
Picking on the Jets with a running back always seems to work out well for the person.
Easy money there.
Yeah. It's like printing money, right?
It is. And then Britt, your captain, I have been beating this drum all season long. And as Mike White has taken over, he has become the next iteration of Alvin Kamara. Talk to me about my boy, Michael Carter.
Yeah, I love Michael Carter. I really love Jonathan Taylor, but I think that the game script could get out of hand, which is why I'm leaning Carter. He's also, with his running ability and his target ability, he is a gold mine. Last week, he had 14 targets and he caught 9 of them. Like just in PPR alone, that's huge, let alone what he did with them. 95 yards, touchdown, and then whatever he did with his runs. Mike White loves to check down. He doesn't get a lot of ADOT, and Carter is going to be the main beneficiary out of this. And like I said, I do think that game script could get out of hand with Taylor, and then they could end up running Hines or even Marlon Mack. He's still there, shockingly.
If they didn't trade him, no need to save his legs now. So
yeah.
What I love about that, and you kind of hit on a couple of things here, is game script. And I think you're going to see the Jets in this short week. They kind of have to focus on what they're already doing. And what they're already doing is throwing the ball to Michael Carter. So I love that play. You both agree that Mr. 400 yards, Mike White, is a player, the chalk burn, the player who is high dollar, who's likely to burn people this week. Britt, you and I talked about it a little bit before the show. Go ahead and talk me through it, and then Kyra can chime in as well.
Yeah, it's not that I don't that I dislike Mike White. I just need to see more from him. I also think that the Bengals might have gone in there a little too cocky and confident and discounted his ability and didn't prepare correctly for him. And he's also $9,800 on the slate. That's just a little too pricey for me, especially in this slate where you have a bunch of high-end players and then not a lot at the bottom. There's not a lot of room for finding value in this game. So that's why he's a fade for me.
Perfect. Kyra, pile on.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. People want to ride the high of Mike White because he went absolutely bananas against the Bengals, and nobody saw that coming. But I don't expect 400 yards out of him on a week-to-week basis. I think that would be crazy to think that this is going to just keep on continuing. I do expect the balls. Wow. I expect the Colts to run the ball.
Okay. The balls can run the Colts.
By doing so, they should be able to control the clock. They can use the run game to their advantage. I don't see him being able to get a ton of opportunity in the game. It's not going to be some wild shootout like we saw versus Cincinnati. And like we said, I really liked Michael Carter because White does target his running back a lot. But Indy also shuts down running back. So I can see White getting his first, welcome to the NFL kind of struggle game. He's been picked off 4 times the last 2 games as well. So he's not perfect. So I'll pass on Mike White. He's a high dollar play, and I just rather fit some other guys in there than try to take my chance on Mike White this week.
That makes perfect sense. And speaking of that, a lot of times to win these small slates, you got to find a differentiation play. Kyra's favorite word when I use it. So Kyra, what's a low dollar play that can help people differentiate their lineups this week?
As per usual, I do have a couple.
Of course.
One of my most ugliest, though, we'll start there, is going to be pick your poison. It's either Tyler Kroft or Ryan Griffin. Super gross, but it's a total punt play, and Indy struggles against the tight ends. One of these dudes could easily steal a touchdown in this game, but your guess is as good as mine on who that's going to be. So some of us will get lucky with Tyler Kroft or Ryan Griffin. A couple other dart throws to me. I really like that Ashton Doolin who saw work without T.Y. Hilton. He's only $200. It's super cheap. That's a great way to be able to fit some other guys in your lineup. And obviously, Marlon Mack. Say this game does get carried away. Why tote out your star running back? Let's see what Marlon Mack's got. He's got some fresh legs, so he's a great option as well.
And Britt, you're going a little bit further down on the Jets wide receiver depth chart.
Yeah, as I kind of mentioned earlier, this slate seems very top loaded, and there's not a lot of value at the bottom. So when I'm looking for value, I'm looking for opportunity.
Yeah.
Mims does that. Last week, he played 70% of the snaps, and he ran routes on 76% of the dropbacks. So the opportunity's there. He only got 3 targets, but the Colts are 24th against the wide receiver position. So they are a little softer there, whereas they're tougher against the run. I think out of all of these low end players, he has the most upside out of any of them.
There you go. So do you favor, now I understand he's probably far cheaper, but do you favor Mims over the rookie Elijah Moore? Do you think he has a better chance to score?
I'm still kind of out on Moore. I think Moore has maybe more opportunity in PPR scoring because White does check the ball down so much. And depending on where they line him up, I know he was working in the slot in training camp, but we just haven't seen a lot of him yet. But I like Mims just for his value.
Perfect. Just a quick recap. Captain seat, you're looking at the starting running backs, Jonathan Taylor and Michael Carter. Both of the ladies agree you're avoiding Mike White this week. Kyra gave you every tight end under the sun. No, Tyler Kroft.
I gave you every other player on the list.
Take your pick. Ashton Doolin I really like, especially with T.Y. Hilton already ruled out, and then Denzel Mims from Britt. So that's the Thursday game. If you're looking for more information on the Thursday game, our writer, Oklahoma Doug, and I guess he's not really doing much writing anymore. He is now doing it in video form, puts together Oh Captain, My Captain. You can find that on our YouTube page where he breaks down the slate in depth and even gives you 2 lineups that you can play that he likes a lot for the week. But as I mentioned, we like to focus on the main slate. we go position by position. We're going to start with quarterback. We could talk about players you like, players you don't like, and we're going to start with the ones you don't like. We call it chalk burn. Which high dollar quarterback is going to burn people this week? Kyra, I don't think there's even a lot of explanation that needs to go into this, but go ahead and start with you with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect when I say this, but like, what the actual fuck? You know what I mean? With Patrick Mahomes, it's almost like he reminds me of, on Space Jam when they came and took all the like superstars' powers and just sucked them dry of it and gave them to somebody else. That's Patrick Mahomes right now. I mean, he looks like his power has been taken from him. He's not looking great. He's looked terrible, especially over the last 2 weeks. He put up 15 DraftKings points, 9.7.4 DraftKings points. Both of those were good matchups for him too, nonetheless. Now he gets a tough matchup versus Green Bay. Fourth hardest matchup for opposing quarterbacks in a game. I think that, Green Bay can do exactly what I think that the Colts could do today and easily control the clock with the run game. Mahomes is the third most expensive quarterback option on DraftKings, and just no thanks right now. He's leading the league in interceptions. The Chiefs just look too broken for me to feel confident paying up and paying for Mahomes at this point.
Yeah, who would ever thought Mahomes is almost turning into a contrarian play in DFS instead of a chalk play at this point? Britt? No, please. No.
I just wanted to talk about Mahomes a little bit too, because, Tyreek Hill looked really good in the last game. He was like the only bright spot, but over the past 2 or 3 games, it almost looks like Kelsey's checked out. Like, I don't know if he has the rest of his team behind him. And that's a big problem as well. Like, if your team and your receiving core isn't behind you, how are you going to improve and correct these mistakes?
So I wonder, and this I'm going to get laughed at because you don't think of this player in any sort of way like this, but a lot of Mahomes' downfall has coincided with Clyde Edwards-Helaire not playing. And is it just maybe a complete lack of respect for the run game now because no one's worried about Darrell Williams or now Derek Gore? And not that we saw a lot of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but maybe he was providing more than what even we were giving him credit for because they're lining up. So
yeah, I mean they're passing more to Darrell Williams than they ever had to Clyde. Maybe that's limiting. I don't even know, dude. It's hard for us to dissect what's actually going on here. Poor offensive line play as well. We've seen Mahomes deal with poor offensive line play in the Super Bowl, and he just looked like he was running like a madman out there. He just wasn't himself. So hopefully he gets back to normal Mahomes soon. I don't think that this is a forever thing, that Mahomes is just washed now after a couple years. But for now, I am off of him.
The Chiefs' bank account better hope not. Britt, you're breaking my heart with your chalk burn. I know the factors that play into this, but I don't like seeing Kyler Murray's name anywhere near a burn. So talk to me about why you don't like my boy.
Baby Yoda.
It was so hard to put him on here, but just because he's been so dynamic all season long. But I am not sure how that ankle is going to hold up or how effective he's going to be. And a lot of his fantasy production has come from his rushing ability. If he's not 100% go with his ankle or his rushing, I just really don't see a return on salary for him this week.
And that makes perfect sense. Now, I don't want to jump too far ahead because I just want to make sure if one of you had them and you do, if Colt McCoy comes into the game, does that negatively affect all pass catchers for the Cardinals? Britt, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit on your notes here, but
it's Colt McCoy really hasn't shown a lot of anything. He's a perennial backup.
Yeah.
I mean, he was great in college. But that's college. As far as the NFL goes, the matchup is fairly favorable. I mean, I think the 49ers are third worst against the quarterback, so that could be something. But AJ Green's also out. So then you have one less weapon to work with. So, yeah.
So in a week where it should be great for the 49ers the Cardinals pass catchers, if we don't have Kyler Murray, that could kill us. Well, if we're not starting Kyler Murray, Britt, who are we starting? Because you're going from one injured guy to another injured guy, but I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I have to go with Dak, and this might be just a little bit of a homer instinct in me, but
we never have that on this show.
Yeah,
do we?
never.
Especially not that opposite way.
But out of the early quarterbacks on the slate, Dak's averaging the most fantasy points per game. I think he has the most weapons. I know CeeDee Lamb didn't practice today. I wrote this before that news broke, but I still think he ends up playing this week.
Okay.
Michael Gallup should be back. Just as far as weapons go and as far as the game script, because I don't necessarily think this is a game that is going to get away from Dallas. They're going to have to throw and still continue to use all their weapons. And 6,900, that's just almost a smash. You're getting a lot. I think his average fantasy points per game this season is 24. So his return on value is just massive.
Yeah, they're kind of valuing him down due to missing last week in the injury, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Kyra, you like somebody else?
Yeah, I'm I really want to say Jalen Hurts here, but I'm not going to. So anyways, I can't do it every week. Just
not every week.
Play Jalen Hurts. But anyways, Joe Burrow is going to be my favorite quarterback play. Burrow has really came on over the last 4 weeks. Actually over the last few weeks, he's thrown for at least 2 touchdowns in every game so far. So his floor remains to be pretty safe. The Browns have allowed 17 passing touchdowns this year, and that's tied at 29 in the NFL. So that's pretty good. More likely to score multiple touchdowns. This is also a game where I think that they have to win through the air opposed to the ground. Cleveland has a pretty tough run defense. Their front seven they have is just way too tough. Burrow feels like just a safe play for me this week. He's put up numbers in his rookie season against this divisional matchup twice. He's thrown for over 300 yards. Both times he threw for 3 touchdowns. The Bengals have only gotten better. So I believe this should be a great game.
Yeah, and it's interdivision. Like you said, they're gonna have to win through the air. And we saw what Justin Herbert did to that Browns defense not that long ago. So we're hoping to see a little bit of repeat of that. Yeah. Both of your favorite plays are modestly priced. But let's dive even deeper. Kyra, give me your deep sea dive, a very cheap quarterback that you like this week.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Tua Tagovailoa. He's been more than serviceable for us in A+ matchups. Against Jacksonville, he threw for 329 yards and 2 touchdowns. Against Atlanta was huge. He went for 291 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now we get the Houston Texans. Tua gets Parker back. He's healthy. He's looked really good. I really love the idea of stacking Tua and Gesicki this week. I think that's a great stack. Cheap stack too at that. And maybe this is Tua's audition for the Houston Texans next year.
There you go. There's certainly been enough rumors at this point. So.
No, all jokes aside there, Texans secondary, it's just been god awful. And the Dolphins remain to be a pass heavy team. Even though it's a good running back matchup for Miami, Gaskin and Ahmed just have looked gross. They really haven't been doing too much. So, maybe Tyrod Taylor, he gets a nod too. So hopefully he keeps this game interesting enough that this makes Tua have to be forced to throw more. We're going to get more points out of both of them. So I really like Tua this week in this matchup for the cheap.
Absolutely. Interesting play going up against the Texans for sure. Britt, Taysom Hill.
Well, I have to caveat this with saying that if he plays,
there you go.
we still don't know 100%. But
practice report was positive today, though.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's all trending towards the fact that he's going to play. He's not a quarterback who's going to get you a ton of points through the air, but his rushing upside is just insane. He's going against the Falcons. They're 4th worst, I think, 4th, 5th worst against the quarterback. Sorry.
Bad.
Yeah, they're awful. Last year in the 4 games that he started, I think he got 24 points, 18 points, 17.5, and then 24 again. So he's definitely a consistent play.
And 2 of those were against the Falcons, right?
they were the first and second, actually, where he scored the 24 and 24. And at 5,500, he's going to return on value and leave you a bunch of space to kind of play around and pay up for more studs in your lineup.
Do you think at that price and his history and obviously the great running upside, is there a danger? And I'm feeling ridiculous saying this as I'm saying it. Is there a danger that he ends up chalky, or do you think he's a guy you can play in GPP and not be worried about it?
I don't know if he's going to be that chalky just because he hasn't played.
Okay.
And he's been out since week 5. I think that he's going to go overlooked, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, plus no Michael Thomas or any great pass catchers, so maybe people just aren't that excited to play him, and they don't realize, his rushing ability really does. Anyone who with rushing ability always helps their fantasy points. So too bad we can't put him at tight end,
Well, yeah, those were the days. People get really caught up on being able to stack their quarterback, and you've kind of already brought him up, Kyra. Jalen Hurts is a guy where you don't necessarily have to stack him because he can get it done himself. And I think Hill falls in that same category.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Well, that's quarterback. So I'm going to.
You almost wouldn't want to stack Taysom Hill with somebody, you know?
Yeah, you almost well, first of all, if you're saving that much money, you can use it so much more wisely elsewhere.
Right.
Especially if you are avoiding Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray. Breaks my heart. You're looking for Joe Burrow and Dak Prescott, and if you're building a cheap quarterback lineup, Tua Tagovailoa and Taysom Hill. We're going to jump to running back. I'm going to start with Kyra. We're going to start with chalk burn. Which high dollar running back is likely to burn folks this week? And this is a name that people have been plugging into, I think, 5-6 straight weeks of lineups this year so far.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked great this season, and it's going to be Joe Mixon, but this could be a hard day at the office for Joe Mixon and going up against the Cleveland Browns. Like I said, that front seven, they're really stout. The run defense is really good. He's the 6th highest priced running back on DraftKings, and he's struggled in bad matchups. So we've seen him not be one of those no matter what matchup proof kind of guys. Cleveland's allowed the 3rd least rushing yards, and they're tied for 8th in the least with rushing touchdowns. They've also only allowed 3.5 yards per carry, which is 1st in the NFL. So they're just tough overall. It's hard to run on them. Just not a good look for Mixon this week. The upside could definitely be capped in this one where like I said, I expect it to be a pass heavy game. They're a pass funnel defense. So I'd much rather stay away and shy away from Joe Mixon and go somewhere else this week.
Makes a lot of sense. And Britt, speaking of not stacking Taysom Hill with anybody.
Yes, this hurts so bad because we've just seen a deluge of injuries basically in the running back position. So it really hurts to fade one of the most elite. But with Alvin Kamara, you almost have to. Taysom Hill does not target Alvin Kamara. And that's where a lot of his fantasy value comes from. In the 4 weeks that Taysom Hill started last year, Kamara had 1 target, 2 targets, 3 targets, and then the last game he finally had 10. Yeah. Everyone was finally like, what happened? And his snap share also went down. It was basically a 50-50 split between him and Latavius Murray until, again, that final game that Hill played. His usage just gets cut all the way back. He's one of the most expensive running backs on this entire slate. And if he's not getting targets, he's not going to return value at all. As enticing as it is to want to play him against Atlanta, because, again, they stink. But, you just have to look at where his value is coming from, and that's the targets.
Well, and you bring up a lot of really great points about what happened to him when Taysom Hill played last year. I was researching an article for somewhere else and noticed that his points per game dropped to almost 14 points per game when Taysom Hill played. And as you mentioned, you want to play Alvin Kamara against Atlanta. 2 of those games were against Atlanta. So even that, it's the opposite of matchup proof
over there for them either in Atlanta. So realistically, it could just be more of the same. Exactly. And then you get Ingram coming back, who takes away some of those rushing carries.
Precisely.
So I mean, he's not a very appealing play this week at all.
I agree, Britt. If we are not playing Joe Mixon or Alvin Kamara, who is your favorite play of the week?
I am going to another pass catching running back in Dalvin Cook. They have a pretty favorable matchup up against the Ravens for running backs. The Ravens rank 24th against the run, but they rank 10th against the pass. So if the Vikings are going to get anything done, they're going to run Dalvin Cook.
Yeah,
they're going to
check down funnel defense, kids.
Yeah. They're going to check down to Cook. They're going to incorporate him in the run game. They're going to want to keep the hands out or keep the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands. I love him. And the fact that he's 7,700, he's one of the cheaper elite backs, if you can say cheaper, I guess. And I think his usage is going to go through the roof this week.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that we're all having to come to grips. We had Doug on the show a few weeks ago. We're all having to come to grips with the fact that the Baltimore defense isn't good, because for most of our lives they have been. And so we have to understand that it's not this vaunted defense that you're avoiding in fantasy anymore.
Yeah, unless you're the Chargers, then they're really
good. And then they show up.
Unless you're Justin Herbert and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, good luck.
Kyra, you have by far my favorite running back play of the week. I think the game script is set up for him to maybe touch the ball 50 times, and that's a low number, but talk to me about Aaron Jones.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, normally I shy away from Aaron Jones. For some reason, I think I brought this up a couple weeks ago when he was my chalk burn. He's just someone I hate to play, and I have no good reason or logic why. But this week we might get a second week in a row of seeing more of the same from Aaron Jones as we did in his game versus Arizona. There's no Aaron Rodgers in this matchup. That may lead to the Packers leaning on the run game and the checkdowns as a safety valve for Jordan Love this week. Kansas City's offense certainly doesn't scare us. They haven't been themselves, and I don't think the game is even going to get away from them in this one. So Jones can easily see 25-plus touches in this game, and he could do some serious work against Kansas City. He's an absolute steal at this price. He's 5th highest on DraftKings and Fanduel, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him finish in the top 3.
And you mentioned that you had no good reason to hate Aaron Jones. I don't know that you have a good reason to like your favorite low dollar play of the week right now, but maybe you can sell me on it.
Oh, man. Yeah, right. I think everyone that he left a bad taste last week. And I was off of him last week. I didn't play him anywhere. I know that he was a super chalky play. Everybody was as excited because people get rookie fever. You know what I mean? They just want to see a rookie take over, and it's just the Philly is not the place for it. You know what I mean? I know that I'm kind of selling myself back out of it, but here's my thing about Kenneth Gainwell. There wasn't a lot of good deep dive running backs this week whatsoever. But I think we were just a week too early on Kenneth Gainwell. I think that his role becomes more required in games where they trail. They did not trail at all. I mean, not even close in that Detroit game. And let's be honest here, he's just not the primary back there. It's going to be Boston Scott. So in games where they're leading like that, I think that we're going to see, Boston Scott, and we're going to see that power runner kind of thing go on. But his bread and butter is going to be more in the passing game. You could see a bunch more dump offs from Jalen Hurts. I know the wide receivers are probably going to be a non-factor in this game because the Chargers do love to shut down the secondary there. But they are pretty weak against running backs, especially pass-catching running backs. They do not do typically too well against. So we may see Kenneth Gainwell come to life in this one. Like I said, I really did hate the deep sea dives this week, but if there's one guy that no one's going to play, it's probably going to be Kenneth Gainwell. People are pissed,
There you go.
So this might be a chance that we get him in there. Another guy that I really liked was Zach Moss, but I did want to get Kenneth Gainwell in there.
I like Moss as well. I want to give a shout out to Mojo, great contributor to the show last week, and he loves the Dalvin Cook pick there for you there, Britt. I'm going to throw this question in. We're not on wide receivers yet, and this is not about DFS, but we did talk a little bit about the Thursday game, and we talked a little bit about Mike White. I see these two players as very similar situations this week. I was very ready to answer this question in the chat. I'm not going to say who I was going to pick, but you have number one big play wide receivers who are not going to play in this game. You have defenses that give up points to the wide receivers. Do you guys have a preference out of Jameson, Crowder, and Jarvis Landry in full PPR this week?
Mine would be Landry this week, just because I think that there's going to be more of a game over there with Cleveland and Cincinnati. And if I could shy away from having to play Thursday night players, Thursday nights are so goddamn weird sometimes. So if it's up to me, I'm going to shy away from Crowder. I think his matchup's good. It's not that it's not, I think he could have a good game, but I would feel a little bit safer rolling with Landry in this one, especially no OBJ.
Yep.
Probably not playing. I'm going to have to go with the long shot and say he's not.
And the number one rule that everybody always says, I'm getting a real bad echo.
So we're super echoey.
Weird. Don't
Probably
play your
my
flex
camera.
spots or your Thursday night players in your flex spots. So, don't play Crowder.
I was going to say, so there's definitely that. If you're going to choose Crowder, move him into a wide receiver spot and not a flex spot. So that's number one. I figured with both of you two disliking Mike White this week, and I know you don't dislike him, and honestly liking that Cleveland game to possibly be a high-scoring game. I know we didn't mention Baker Mayfield specifically. I was also going to lead Landry, so I think all of us are kind of saying Jarvis Landry in this matchup.
And I just don't trust Mike White quite yet. It's not that I love Baker either, but one game sample size just doesn't do it for me. And if it tells you anything, if Mike White could go over to Cincinnati and throw for 400 yards, and what's stopping Baker from having a good game?
There you go. And then I don't want to pass up Britt's favorite low dollar play, her deep sea dive at running back. We've already talked about one North Carolina rookie running back. Let's get them both in the same show, which might be the first time this season.
Right. So maybe I am going on rookie fever, but I absolutely love Javonte Williams. I kind of low-key wish that Melvin Gordon would have gotten traded so that Javonte could just take over this backfield. But if you look at Javonte's efficiency, this is from Dwayne McFarland at PFF. I came across this yesterday, so this is not my research, but he leads all running backs with 50 attempts and missed tackles at 36%. He's 10th in explosive run rate at 14% and 7th in yards after contact per attempt. I absolutely love the matchup with the Cowboys. Not just because they're pretty good against the pure run, but when they check down, and Teddy does check down quite a bit, Javonte is going to be the beneficiary of that, and Dallas is not good against pass catching running back. So I think that's where he gets all of his value from this week.
You figure that big game has to happen. Exactly. Because everybody wanted Melvin Gordon to get traded. It didn't happen. So you figure that big game's going to eventually happen for Javonte Williams. He's the more talented running back. So at this point.
Breaks tackles like a boss.
Exactly.
He's so fun to watch. He's so fun.
Yep.
Unleash him.
No, keep going.
Unleash that man.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to recap running back. You are avoiding Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara. You are playing Aaron Jones and Dalvin Cook. And deep sea dive, if you're looking for that roster fill, Kenneth Gainwell and Javonte Williams, both dirt cheap this week. We're going to jump into wide receiver, chalk burn, the high dollar player that's going to burn you. Britt, I'm going to let you start because it kind of coincides with something we talked about earlier.
Yeah, going along with that Kyler Murray avoid, I've got to avoid DeAndre Hopkins. He didn't practice again today. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. Hamstrings for a wide receiver, that's a big deal. Yeah. I don't see him getting that burst, that separation away from the corners. And then again, if Kyler doesn't play, that devalues him even further. At 7,000, I think wide receiver is so deep, you can find a much better player at a lot lower salary that will actually deliver on salary.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And we even brought up this could have been a smash matchup, but with the things that are going against DeAndre Hopkins, it's one that you may just not want to look at this week. And Kyra, I don't think I've ever seen this name in your chalk burn and not like written 4 different times in your favorite play of the week. So
I know how he's fallen from grace.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be Mike Williams. It's just not an ideal week for him. He's going up against my Eagles. All right. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're the world's greatest secondary because Lord knows they're not. But to be honest, Williams is the X receiver. He's probably going to see a lot of Darius Slay, who's actually been really great this season. So he's just somebody that's cooled down, guys. I mean, over the last 2 weeks, he's had single-digit performances. I don't know if he's just dealing with an injury and that's what's holding him back, or like people are just figuring out the offense a little more. They're focusing more on Mike Williams. And I know that the Eagles have struggled versus good offenses in the past, but they have held fantasy receivers in check for the most part. And I think that this game presents for them to be more of an Eckler game. I really like Austin Eckler this week. So the Eagles are allowing the 26th most fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers, so it's not going to be great for him. Yeah. We've also seen just a little changing of the tide with Allen and Williams in fantasy, especially when teams to choose Williams to shut him down. So I think it's more of a Keenan Allen day, and I'm just good at his price tag right now. He's priced way too high for me to feel confident when there are much better options you can go for.
Yeah, I feel like Mike Williams' price is going to be one of those ones that just stock markets up and down this season because you got to have to chase the trends with his gameplay. That's what it really comes down to.
We knew he had what he was doing at the beginning of the season in him. We knew that he was that big, red zone target. He's big play wide receiver, but just right now, I can't play a guy who hasn't been impressing me over the last 2 weeks in a matchup that doesn't seem that great.
There you go. Well, if you're avoiding Mike Williams, you're looking at a different game. And I love that both of you like this game with different players. But talk to me about Hollywood.
Yeah, I'm going with Marquis Brown this week. Man, he's just way too cheap for what he can do. And the Vikings, they just lost their star pass rusher, Danielle Hunter. And now we're pretty much back to them looking like last year's version of the Minnesota secondary. Their corners just can't stop jack shit. If you can remember that far back to last year, we almost I targeted Minnesota's defense secondary in every matchup that I could. So no way are they going to be able to contain a speedy wide receiver like Marquis Brown. He's been the 8th best wide receiver on DraftKings this year. I don't know what the hell he's doing priced down so low there. His value is just way too good. He's the 16th highest priced wide receiver on DraftKings. That's absurd. Just for a little bit of some comparison for you, he's the 5th highest on Fanduel. So someone's been doing their homework over at Fanduel. while the guy at DraftKings is sleeping. I don't know what they're looking at. I don't know if they just missed him and they're like, oh shit, we got to throw Marquis Brown on here, and they just threw him somewhere because it's just wrong. He's just way too good. So if you're over on DraftKings, you got to play Marquis Brown. And honestly, another one of my favorite plays this week, who I would flip-flop because of this situation, is going to be Brandon Cooks on FanDuel.
Okay.
He's cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. And if I'm playing on FanDuel, since Brown is the 5th highest wide receiver, I'm cool with going on Brandon Cooks FanDuel, Marquis Brown on DraftKings.
There you go. And Britt, you're going chalk, but man, it's good to see his name in a positive column with the way this team's been playing.
We kind of touched on it when we were talking about Patrick Mahomes. Tyreek Hill is like the lone bright spot on this offense. They're using him in the slot. They're using him out wide. They're using him as a running back in jet sweep packages. Like, they're using him literally all over the field. His upside alone, just because of his usage. No. Oh, and Jair Alexander is out this week too. So they're without their top corner, leaving them even more vulnerable to his versatility.
Yeah. And his field stretching ability. If Jair Alexander's not there, unless they're going to commit to triple covering him, I don't know that anybody's going to be able to slow them down. So, but let's jump back into that Baltimore game, because your favorite deep sea dive wide receiver is going to be lining up opposite Hollywood Brown all week. So
I love Rashad Bateman. Maybe I'm too heavy on rookies in DFS this week. I don't know.
Hey,
but
this is about the time to start getting heavy on rookies, though.
Yes.
So.
This is where they start showing up, this middle half of the year, they'll start picking it up.
Yeah. And this, they said that they were going to work him in slowly after that injury. He played over 60% of snaps in both of the games that he started. He had this bye. I think this is the week that they finally unleash him. And Kyra, you touched on it. Minnesota's awful against the pass. They're 27th.
Especially when you lost that pass rusher, like that makes a big deal for them that they didn't have him last year either. So like it's more the same.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's, $4,000. That's just a smash. That's a smash.
Yeah, you can fit 2 of him into one Tyreek Hill slot.
Yes.
And Kyra, if you're diving deep, you're looking at the Denver Broncos.
It's going to be Jerry Jeudy. I'm going back to the well on Jerry Jeudy here this week versus the Dallas Cowboys. His first game back last week, he played 70% of his snaps, and that should increase as he gets healthier. Like I said last week, I asked the fantasy doctors, what's up with Jerry Jeudy? And they said each week he's going to get better and better. So I've got some hope there for him. He saw 4 targets last week, 1 being in the red zone. That could have saved his fantasy outing for the day. Dallas's secondary has kind of been getting their ass kicked in the slot. Trayvon Diggs, great. He's been playing fantastic, but that's a little bit of a weak spot for them over there. And hopefully that's where Cortland Sutton is going to find himself. But also, it's a great bounce back game for him. I think he's going to be able to be capable of showing us that he's also an alpha in this offense. It's not just Cortland Sutton. Not to mention the Dallas secondary does actually rank as the 8th worst against opposing wide receivers. They've allowed on average 24.8 points per game to them. So I'm pretty big on Jerry Jeudy this week. He's pretty cheap, especially over on DraftKings in comparison to FanDuel. Another dart throw play I'd throw in there is Bryan Edwards, given the recent news. Unfortunately, it's tragic news, but, with that fantasy football, it still has to move on. So Bryan Edwards is a dart throw that I like as well.
Yep. Our boy Mo likes both of your Baltimore Ravens plays. He brings up, and I found it interesting, you guys included none of them. Now, they may not be main slate. I don't have the main slate off the top of my head, but Bills wide receivers versus Jacksonville, it probably is main slate, especially Stephon Diggs. And I love the especially Stephon Diggs part of it. Are we ready to trust Stephon Diggs?
Yeah, I would. On FanDuel, I know that he's priced somewhere within the same tier as I don't have my stuff up, but I believe he's in that same tier as my favorite plays this week. So
I knew he had started to work his way down last week. So.
Yeah, he did. He was really low on there and really high on DraftKings. It was another one of those weird price points things. But yeah, you can't argue Diggs versus Jacksonville whatsoever. I mean, he's up there. He's just priced too high on DraftKings for me to want to include him here in this.
Britt? Yeah, and he's 7,600 on FanDuel, so he's just under Marquis Brown.
Yeah,
the 6th most. Yeah, 6th most expensive.
Oh, interesting, because he was 8th last week. I remember Kyra was really big on that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So, oh man, I don't know. There's just so many mouths to feed in that Bills offense, and this game could get out of hand really quickly where they end up just running the ball a lot.
Which is why we like Zach Moss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't put my faith in that receiving core just yet. I think that touchdown last week was promising, but again, game script.
Perfect. Before we wrap up wide receivers, just yes or no. Michael Pittman scoring a touchdown tonight?
Why not? Michael Pittman, he's been on fire. You know, the Jets are actually not too bad against opposing wide receivers. Like I said, their bread and butter and weaknesses over there is going to be Jonathan Taylor tonight. But hey, Michael Pittman's been on fire, man. He's looking good. Breakout season for him.
Yeah, and Carson Wentz has thrown 2 or more touchdowns in the past 5 games in a row.
Exactly.
T.Y. Hilton's out with the concussion. And Pittman's 2 touchdowns last week didn't come from far out. I mean, Wentz just kind of lobbed a 4-yard touchdown to him.
Pretty sure they were both on the exact same route, if I remember correctly.
I thought my TV had rewound
itself.
Yeah,
exactly. I promise you. So I watch Red Zone. I thought they were re-showing the first touchdown. I completely agree with you. So.
Yeah. So, he won't have to make a big play if he's open, down there in the red zone. I think it's very feasible. I like it.
All right, so we're going to recap wide receivers. You are avoiding Mike Williams and DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins really a product of the Kyler Murray possible injury miss. You're going to look for Marquis Brown, especially on DraftKings, correct? And then on FanDuel, who was the Brandon Cooks.
Cook.
Marquis Brown on DraftKings, Brandon Cooks on FanDuel.
Versus Miami, great matchup.
Yep, and then Tyreek Hill. And you're going to, if you're diving deep, you're filling that last wide receiver spot, Jerry Jeudy, Rashad Bateman. We're going to move over to tight end. Just a quick reminder to everybody. Thank you for joining us. Hit that subscribe button. We do giveaways every time we hit subscriber milestones. We also focus on DFS on this show. So if you ask a redraft question, I'm probably just going to answer you in the chat. We are at tight ends. We are at Chalkburn, which is the high dollar tight end that is likely to burn you this week. I haven't done the research, but I'm going to guess these 2 players are the highest $2 tight ends that you could possibly pick. Britt, I'm going to start with you. We saw a very rough game out of Kyle Pitts last week in his first game without Calvin Ridley, and I'm guessing you think that continues.
Oh, it was so rough. I mean, he got 6 targets, but he just did not look good. They were double teaming him. They were kind of cutting his route.
Gilmore asked to cover him, so they came for his neck for sure.
Oh, for sure. And I hate it because I am unabashedly a Kyle Pitts truther. I hate this for him.
But you're all about the rookies, aren't you?
Honestly, I really am. It's like, am I doing redraft or dynasty? But I just think the absence of Ridley really just shines a big spotlight on Pitts for defenses to attack. And unless he can get that separation, which he didn't show that he could last week, I'm not looking for him to put up enough points to meet value.
I like it. Britt Flinn is going to be the first dynasty DFS player.
Dude, we should totally start it.
I was going to say, it's the way you're going. And
it's so hard to separate all this. You know what I mean? I try to I love Dynasty so freaking much. It's one of my favorite formats to play, but I think that sometimes that happens to me too. My love for the rookies follows itself into redraft, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm just a little too early on this guy.
It happens, but I said this is the week. Now, obviously, Pitts is in some exigent circumstances, but this is the week where you're going to see these guys start to finally get the hang of their offenses. Rashad Bateman was a great call out in that they're working him more and more into the offense, and they're coming off of a bye. Not to toot my own horn, I said the same exact thing about Michael Carter coming off of that bye. That's when they start getting these rookies involved a lot more. Kyra, you're breaking my heart, but it makes so much sense based on just the hate we've been throwing at this team all show long. My redraft teams weep to see Travis Kelce on the Chalkburn list.
This honestly might be the first time in years Travis Kelce has fell on some Chalkburn. I never thought I'd see the day, to be honest. And, I don't think we're reaching a point where it's like, oh, is Travis Kelce finally hitting his age model? You know what I mean? Is he starting to regress? I don't want to believe that too. Dynasty, he's all over my dynasty.
He's every dynasty roster I have. I'm so angry that you've said this in the.
I don't want to speak it into existence. I don't believe it. I think it's really just the poor play of Patrick Mahomes. It'll all figure itself out. I have a feeling. I guess they need a bye because usually the Chiefs after a bye really help them out.
And their bye is so late. And I feel like if you play redraft like me, you salivated when you landed a Chiefs player and saw how late their bye was. And now you're like, damn, why could their bye not have been in week 8?
Needs to come sooner, but just for right now, Kelsey, he's just become too expensive for the production that he's putting out. Do I think that Kelsey's going to have a bad game necessarily? No. I think he could still put up double digits, but he's just not doing enough like those 20+ point games or even close to them for me to bother paying up at his price. I'd rather pay down for this year's current tight end one in Mark Andrews on DraftKings. He's $1,500 less. Or I'm going to target a guy like, our value plays in Dallas Goedert or Mike Gesicki. I think that they have, a great matchups and they could put up just as many points, if not better. And I have a weird feeling about Kyle Pitts this week. Like, I don't know what to think because he plays essentially as a wide receiver. So the Saints versus wide receivers are really bad. They're actually not that great. So I'm really curious to see how that one plays out there. I'm staying away from him because I don't know what to think. But but I hope he prevails. I really do.
You want to see the kid do well.
Yeah, I hope I'm completely wrong. I will own this bad take. Like,
there you go. Well, it's not a bad. Let's be clear. It is not a bad take if you can back it up with facts, and you did exactly that. It's right process, wrong result. If he blows up this week.
The process, right? As a tight end, the matchup is terrible for him. You know what I mean? But let's see, is he used more like his wide receiver self, and see if
Yeah, it's really interesting because they also didn't target Russell Gage one time last week, which is just
God. They didn't target any wide receiver out there. It was just garbage. Except for, however you want to see Cordell Patterson.
Hey, and I'm hoping to see him over 10 targets this week.
Yeah.
All is right in the world, Kyra, with your favorite play of the week because you fit your second Philadelphia Eagle into your lineup. And I don't ever mean to joke that Kyra is a homer. She makes the right calls. I just have to poke her in the ribs every now and then.
Oh man, well, to be honest with you, I really wanted to pick Mike Gesicki there. I really loved him a lot, but Goddard is just way too cheap on DraftKings for his great matchup versus the Chargers. He's less than Gesicki, so that's why I figured, hey, I'll take advantage of my Eagle here, and I won't make her talk about the Eagles. But he's the 10th highest priced tight end on the slate. Super cheap. He's just as appealing as Gesicki in a great matchup as well. So for a guy who sees a healthy amount of targets on a week-to-week basis going up against the second best fantasy matchup for tight ends against the Chargers, I'm all over Goddard. The wide receivers, I said they're going to struggle. LA secondary is just they shut down wide receivers. Yeah. So I'm going to be looking for Hurts to lean on Goddard in a game that they should be trailing. Since Ertz has actually been traded away to the Arizona Cardinals, Goddard went back-to-back weeks of 70+ yards, and he's had 12 targets. So I think that he's in line to have a great game.
I was saying, if you're building a cheap Tua lineup, we've talked about him a few times. Britt, he's your favorite tight end play of the week. Mike Gesicki's a perfect stack with Tua.
Yes, I love him. Mm-hmm. This matchup against the Texans is just, it's primo.
Yes.
I just don't know what more to say about it, except it's like single ply defense, but just but his price. Sorry.
It's perfect.
That was totally off the cuff. I
tight end used as a wide receiver. You know what I mean? Like he's
absolutely
tight end my ass. That's a wide receiver out there.
Yeah, and you kind of saw Miami use him that way, and then they moved Smythe into the tight end position. They ran a ton of 12 personnel that week, and Will Fuller's still out. Yep. Yeah, Parker's there, and he did a good job last week on his return. Waddle's still jury out on him. Gesicki is a very dependable, reliable option for Tua to go to, and the Texans are 28th against the tight end. It's great.
Yeah, there's a great matchup on that Texans defense that can cover him. Britt, I'm making you go last just because I want to hear you pronounce his last name if you can. But Kyra, deep sea dive, favorite low dollar play, tight end.
Yeah. So my deep sea dive this week, we're gonna go with Tyler Conklin of the Minnesota Vikings. He's got an awesome $3,000 punt price over there on DraftKings, and he's averaged 10 fantasy points per game over the last 2 weeks. He gets a great matchup here versus Baltimore, who gives up the third most fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. And Conklin's had plenty of opportunities for points in this game. It's a 48.5 over under. It's pretty good over under, especially compared to some of the games this week. And Conklin actually stays busy in this Vikings offense. He's averaged 29 routes run per game. It's the fifth most amongst all tight ends. So why not play a guy like Conklin at a price discount there? $3,000 for a dude that's running the fifth most routes out of all the tight ends. Pretty easy pick for me.
Perfect. And Britt, I'm going to make you wait even longer because someone threw in a quick tight end question in the chat. Just keep in mind, I'm asking these ladies in the frame of DFS, but what are our thoughts on George Kittle? We're just going to go on the assumption he's going to be back for the game.
Yeah, so if Kittle's back this week, he actually has a really tough matchup going up against the Arizona Cardinals. In years past, they were actually one of the weakest matchups. You almost wanted to target the Cardinals, but they've been stout against them this year. But I mean, they need him back. He is one of those guys who could tend to be matchup proof, depending on who your backup is right now. If you have a guy that, say you've had Gesicki filling in for you, I'd rather Gesicki over Kittle. I'd rather Goddard over Kittle. I don't bump him up in that upper echelon quite yet. I think that, coming off the injury is also a little bit concerning. So if you have better options, play them. If you're, trying to roll out like I know he has COVID right now.
Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith has been my backup to Kittle in almost every league. So.
Right. So if you're playing Jonnu Smith, then I want Kittle in there. I know that Noah Fant has COVID right now, or he might not be playing this game, but if you've been rolling out like a Noah Fant, I'd play Kittle over him. Really depends on who your backup is.
Yeah, I'm of that same mindset. Arizona is literally the number one defense against tight ends. Yeah. Kittle wasn't super efficient, even in games he was healthy. And he's coming back from IR. How in shape is he? How ready is he to go? You just have to weigh it against your options.
Perfect. And if you can't start Kittle, Britt, you might have a very cheap dollar option and maybe even available post waivers in some leagues. Who's your favorite deep sea dive at tight end?
It is Albert Okwuegbunam.
Boom.
From the
wow.
SEC. I kind of cheated.
What is it again?
Okwuegbunam.
Woo!
So he played for Missouri. So I kind of cheated because I've watched him play in the SEC West. So
okay.
I've heard that name a ton. So, but he's 2,600 on DraftKings. Kyra mentioned that Noah Fant is on the COVID list. He's not going to return for this game against Dallas. Dallas has improved against the tight end from last year, but they're still allowing 14.93 average fantasy points per game at 2,600. You got to do it. You got to.
Yeah. If not for anything, just to see that there's not enough room in your lineup to fit his entire name. Alberto.
I have a really long last name too. My jerseys used to suck because it would go from like the side of my shoulder to like down.
And you always got the really small font.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is number 38? Like,
no, Alberto's a great call because what's great about is he was already seeing targets while Fant was playing. So it's not like he's this backup who's done nothing. He's someone who's involved. So he's going to be able to slide into that role that Fant was seeing 10 targets a game at sometimes.
Yeah, he is an athletic tight end too. He's a good player.
I love it. So at tight end, you are avoiding Travis Kelce and Kyle Pitts. It's hard to hear, but both reasonings make sense. You are looking to play Dallas Goedert and Mike Gesicki, Tyler Conklin if you're going low, and then Albert Okwuegbunam if you're going very low. And like I said, that's such a great play because you could fit a maybe high dollar defense in. And we're going to talk a little bit about defense because they have to fit into your lineup. We call our defense David and Goliath. Basically, I want one high dollar play if you have too much money left over, one low dollar play if you are just trying to sneak it into your lineup. Britt, go ahead and finish us out with your defenses.
So for my Goliath, I love the Bills at Jacksonville. The Bills are number one defense against the quarterback, the running back. They're second against the wide receiver and eighth against the tight end. Yeah, they're just overall amazing. And what makes this matchup even better is that Jacksonville is pretty stinky on offense, and James Robinson might not be there. And he's been one of the only coherent, relevant pieces in that offense. So I'd love them to smash this week. My David, yeah, for sure. My David is actually the Vikings at Baltimore, it felt a little weird to type this out. They're one of the cheapest on DraftKings. They're 2,200, but they're actually the number 8 overall defense. The Ravens are going to have to pass to keep up, leaving opportunities for interceptions. And Harrison Smith is a dog. I mean, he is a dog, despite the chokehold on CeeDee Lamb. But I mean, he's a dog.
All's forgiven.
Yes. If he can win me some money with a $2,200 defense, I'll let that slide.
And defenses, how they're priced never really necessarily correlate in DFS, you know what I mean? So, just because someone's priced really, really low doesn't necessarily mean they're going to finish really, really low. So you can't always let that affect your judgment, especially in a matchup like that. You never know. There could
absolutely. Kyra, you got some defenses for us?
Yeah, I sure do. So this week, my Goliath is going to be the New England Patriots going up against the Carolina Panthers. I think that Bill Belichick has Sam Darnold's number. Pretty sure was he the guy that made him start seeing ghosts?
I believe that was.
Yeah, so Sam Darnold hasn't looked too hot recently. I think that it's pretty obvious why you might want to go with the Patriots at that high dog.
And let's not even discount the fact that it may be PJ Walker with no Christian McCaffrey. It could be far worse.
I forgot he is in concussion protocol. So I mean, Bill Belichick, he always capitalizes on opportunities like that. So Patriots, easy peasy, easy money. My David this week is actually going to be the San Francisco 49ers going up against the Arizona Cardinals, merely for the fact that we could be playing up against. Who's their backup? Is it
Colt McCoy?
Colt McCoy. Sorry, that's who it was.
Yep.
Colt McCoy. So, I mean, given that with no AJ Green, no DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, I could see how the 49ers could squeak themselves a couple turnovers in this game, could make it a low-scoring game on the Cardinals side of the ball. So I like them for a cheaper price this week. They're only $2,800 over on DraftKings.
So cheap.
That's so cheap. And $3,500 on Fanduel. So I like them a lot, actually.
Yeah, if you can pick on backup quarterbacks, pick on backup quarterbacks. That's
why not? Especially when the news isn't out yet for the week. So they're assuming that San Fran's still playing up against Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, and they're probably not.
Ladies, fantastic job as always. Britt, thank you so much. For those who missed all of the miscommunications, we tried to have Britt on 2 weeks ago, and then my week 8 guest confirmed before we could have her on for week 8. So we got her on for week 9. We made it, technical difficulties and all. We made it through the show. Britt, thank you so much. Please talk to the people. Tell them where they can find you. Pitch anything possible that you can pitch because you're fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome. You guys can find me on Twitter at Britt_Flinn. You can find me on fightingchancefantasy.com with my weekly DFS articles and occasionally little other pieces thrown in. I recently did an article for Fantasy Intervention, so I'll be over there from time to time. And you can find me on a couple podcasts, The Calm Before the Storm on Sunday morning at 11 Eastern with Kevin Tompkins and Gary Haddow, and the Tuesday Night Waivers with Chase Vernon.
Perfect. And that article you did for Fantasy Intervention, I want to just give one more plug to. It was a post waiver pickup. So it's players you can look for after waivers have run, which is great value to have because you might, I don't know, all of a sudden hear that OBJ might never play for the Browns again. And maybe there's someone out there worth cutting him for. Kyra, parting words for the people.
Britt, I'm just happy. Thank you for having the patience with us. I'm happy to get you on here. Ryan's just surrounded in estrogen right now. I love it. It's always me and 2 dudes. So it's great to have my first female guest on. I'm happy it was you. You did a great job. Everybody, you know the deal. Kyra's Cash Grab is going to come out on Saturday morning. It's one of my favorite things to do all week long is wait to get that out. So excited to get that out for everybody. So stay tuned to that. Ryan, whatever you got for us is good. I have a date, you know what I mean? So I got to get myself going. It's not going to be with the Jets and Colts.
There you go. Yeah, the worst possible date.
I stood them up tonight. You know what I mean?
I love it. All right, let me run through my parting words so we can get you out of here. First and foremost, as I mentioned, every time we hit subscriber milestones, we do giveaways. Last Wednesday, we gave away a Javonte Williams jersey. And Brad, if you have tuned into this show, you have not responded yet. If you do not respond by next Wednesday, we're giving your jersey to somebody else. So Brad, if you're out there, Josh has been trying to get a hold of you. Please respond, hit us up on Twitter, do something so we can get you this jersey.
Yeah, dude, we don't like Javonte Williams.
Exactly.
So
he's a play.
We're not going to take it.
There you go. Check out Doug's video for the Thursday night game. You got about an hour before kickoff. Doug will break it out for you. Check the link in the description for our partnership with Thrive Fantasy. They'll match your opening deposit. You can win a ton of money with prop bets. We do articles and videos for that. Every Saturday morning, right after Kyra's article drops, check out Kyra's article, but we do start, sit, different day. All of your redraft questions that I've been answering in the chat, we answer live on the show. We have no show doc. If you don't ask questions, we twiddle our thumbs, but there's been a ton of questions and we love getting every single one of them involved in the show. And finally, in about, 20 minutes now, we are kicking off our next Dynasty show. That's going to be Josh Hudson from No Pun Intended, Zach Smith, FF Wu-Tang Forever, one of our Dynasty writers. And they're bringing on Josh Larkey from Roto Underworld tonight. So they're going to kick off all that Dynasty goodness for you. Same channel in about 20 minutes. You might as well go ahead and hit subscribe so you know when we go live. Everybody, good luck this week. I hope the Jets and Colts doesn't disappoint.
Yeah.